In the basement archives of the San Francisco Historical Society, archivist Rebecca Thornton carefully removed a leather-bound album from a recently donated collection. The faded gold lettering on its cover read, Madsen Hargrove, 1907. As part of the Society's project to digitize pre-earthquake photographs, Rebecca had been processing dozens of family albums each week. This particular collection had arrived anonymously, left at the Society's doorstep with only a brief note. These should be preserved. Initial examination suggested the materials belonged to a prominent banking family from Nob Hill. Rebecca opened the album, revealing formal portraits and candid moments from a lavish Edwardian wedding. The photographs documented the marriage of Elizabeth Hargrove, daughter of shipping magnate William Hargrove, to Victor Madsen, heir to a banking fortune. The Society pages had certainly covered such a union extensively. The centerpiece photograph showed the couple moments after their ceremony, the handsome groom beaming proudly, the bride resplendent in Belgian lace. Family members gathered around them in the opulent parlor of the Hargrove mansion. It was the epitome of San Francisco high society before the devastating 1906 earthquake changed the city forever. As Rebecca prepared to scan the image, something caught her attention. In the ornate mirror hanging on the wall behind the bride, a reflection was visible. A woman standing in the doorway, her expression a stark contrast to the celebration. While not entirely clear, the reflection showed someone watching the scene with what appeared to be anguish or anger. Rebecca adjusted her glasses and leaned closer. The woman wasn't positioned among the wedding guests, but stood apart, as if not meant to be in the photograph at all. "Dr. Levinson," Rebecca called to her supervisor. "I think you should see this." What had begun as routine archival work had suddenly become something more intriguing. A question captured accidentally in silver gelatin, preserved for over a century, waiting to be answered. Dr. James Levinson carefully examined the wedding photograph under the specialized light of the Conservation Laboratory. With 40 years of experience as a historical photograph curator, he had developed an eye for details others might miss. "The technical aspects are fascinating," he observed, adjusting the magnifying lens. "This was taken with a flash powder system, cutting edge for 1907. The photographer likely didn't notice the reflection when composing the shot." Rebecca pointed to the mirror. "Who do you think she is? She seems out of place." "Indeed. Everyone else is celebrating. But this woman..." Dr. Levinson paused. "Let's check the wedding announcement for clues." The Society's newspaper archives contained the complete coverage of the Madsen Hargrove wedding from the San Francisco Chronicle, dated May 18, 1907. The article described the social event of the season in elaborate detail: the bride's gown from Paris, imported flowers, a guest list of 300 prominent citizens, and music provided by a string quartet from the symphony. "Look at this," Rebecca said, pointing to a paragraph near the end. "It mentions the ceremony was delayed by an hour due to an unfortunate disturbance that was quickly resolved. No further details provided." Dr. Levinson nodded thoughtfully. "Let's examine the other photographs in the album. Sometimes the story emerges across multiple images." The remaining photographs showed traditional wedding moments: the couple cutting cake, dancing their first waltz, departing in a motor car. In none of these did the mysterious woman appear. "We need more context," Dr. Levinson decided. "The Hargroves and Madsens were prominent families. There should be other records." Rebecca began searching the Society's database. The Hargrove Shipping Company records were donated in the 1950s, and the Madsen Banking Corporation archives came to us when they merged with Western Financial in 1989. "Excellent starting points," Dr. Levinson said. "But I suspect we'll need to look beyond business records. This has the feeling of something personal, something families would prefer to keep private." The research room of the San Francisco Public Library housed an extensive microfilm collection of local newspapers dating back to the Gold Rush era. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson had secured permission to access these archives, focusing their search on the months surrounding the Madsen Hargrove wedding. Social events were covered extensively in this era, Dr. Levinson explained as he threaded the microfilm onto the reader. Engagements, weddings, charity balls, they were documented in minute detail. The engagement announcement from December 1906 described Elizabeth Hargrove as the accomplished daughter of William and Margaret Hargrove, and Victor Madsen as the promising young heir to the Madsen banking fortune. The families expressed mutual delight at the forthcoming union. Rebecca noted something curious. There's no mention of a previous engagement for either of them. Not unusual, Dr. Levinson replied. But let's look at society columns from the year before. Methodically working backward through 1906, they found numerous mentions of Elizabeth attending events, often escorted by different eligible bachelors. Then, in April 1906, just days before the earthquake, a small item appeared. Miss Elizabeth Hargrove was seen at the symphony in the company of Mr. Thomas Aldridge, a talented architect newly arrived from Boston. Sources close to the Hargrove family suggest an announcement may be forthcoming. Thomas Aldridge, Rebecca repeated. No further announcements appeared after that. Dr. Levinson continued scanning through post-earthquake coverage. The disaster would have disrupted normal social reporting. In August 1906, they found a brief mention. Mr. Thomas Aldridge, who had been contributing his architectural expertise to rebuilding efforts, has departed for Chicago. His innovative designs for earthquake-resistant structures had gained attention among the reconstruction committees. Rebecca frowned. He left rather suddenly. And by December, Elizabeth was engaged to Victor Madsen, Dr. Levinson noted. Let's search specifically for Thomas Aldridge. The only other reference they found was from a professional journal. Aldridge Architecture Studio opens in Chicago, specializing in modern structural designs. Mr. Aldridge's experience with San Francisco's reconstruction has informed his innovative approaches to urban planning. We need to find a connection between Aldridge and the wedding photograph, Rebecca said. Could the woman in the mirror be related to him somehow? The California Architectural Archives, housed at Berkeley University, maintained records of significant buildings and their designers from throughout the state's history. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson had arranged to examine any materials related to Thomas Aldridge's brief time in San Francisco. His work here was limited, explained the archive's curator, Professor Helen Wu, but quite notable given the circumstances. Aldridge arrived just months before the 1906 earthquake and became involved in the recovery planning almost immediately afterward. She presented them with a portfolio containing Aldridge's sketches, blueprints, and photographs. His proposals for reinforced concrete structures and improved building codes reflected forward-thinking approaches to urban safety. He worked closely with the Reconstruction Committee. Professor Wu continued. William Hargrove was a key member of that committee, representing business interests in the rebuilding efforts. Rebecca carefully turned the pages of the portfolio, examining photographs of Aldridge at various construction sites. In one image, taken at a committee meeting, William Hargrove could be seen in the background, and beside him, a young woman. Is that Elizabeth Hargrove? Rebecca asked, pointing to the woman. Professor Wu leaned closer. The notation identifies her as attending in a secretarial capacity. The committee meetings were typically male-only affairs, but in the post-disaster chaos, such conventions were sometimes relaxed. Dr. Levinson studied the photograph. So Elizabeth and Thomas would have had regular contact through her father's committee work. There's something else interesting, Professor Wu said, retrieving another folder. Aldridge submitted a design for a residence in Pacific Heights, commissioned by the Hargrove family in June 1906. The project was never completed, and the commission was withdrawn in September of the same year. The detailed drawings showed an elegant home with innovative safety features and modern amenities. Notations in Aldridge's handwriting indicated specific requests from Miss Hargrove regarding the layout of the music room and garden design. This wasn't just any commission, Rebecca realized. This looks like a house being designed for a young couple. Dr. Levinson finished her thought. Perhaps Elizabeth and Thomas were planning a future together. Before something changed, Rebecca added, before he suddenly left for Chicago. The Hargrove family papers, stored in acid-free boxes in the Historical Society's climate-controlled repository, had never been fully cataloged. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson spent hours examining correspondence, business records, and personal diaries. Most of the collection focuses on shipping business matters, Rebecca noted, carefully turning the pages of William Hargrove's 1906 ledger. Family correspondence is minimal. Not surprising, Dr. Levinson replied. Personal matters were often kept separate from business records, but there might be references that provide context. In a small leather box labeled Elizabeth Personal, they discovered a bundle of letters tied with faded blue ribbon. The earliest was dated February 1906, and the handwriting matched the architectural notations they had seen in Aldridge's portfolio. "My dearest Elizabeth," Dr. Levinson read aloud, "your father's approval of our architectural discussions has provided the perfect cover for our meetings, though I find myself distracted from professional matters whenever you enter the room. Your suggestion for incorporating the bay window in the library shows your natural eye for design. How fortunate I am to find a woman whose vision for our future home matches my own." The letters continued through March and April, growing increasingly affectionate. Then came an undated note, written in a hurried hand on the letterhead of the Palace Hotel, where many displaced residents stayed after the earthquake. Thank God you and your family are safe. The destruction is beyond comprehension. Your father's invitation to join the committee is an honor I cannot refuse. In these dark days, the prospect of building a life with you gives me strength. When the city rises again, we shall rise with it. All my love, T. The correspondence continued through June, with detailed discussions of their future home and oblique references to speaking with your father soon about matters beyond architecture. Then the letters stopped abruptly. The final item in the bundle was a draft letter in Elizabeth's handwriting, dated August 10, 1906, never sent. "Thomas, father has forbidden me to contact you. He says the incident with Victor has changed everything. I tried to explain, but his mind is made up. The banking partnership means everything to him now. I am watched constantly. Please know that what they're saying about you isn't true. I'll find a way." The letter ended mid-sentence. The Madsen Banking Corporation records occupied an entire section of the Historical Society's business archives. Rebecca focused on the period of 1906-1907, seeking connections between the Madsen and Hargrove families prior to the wedding. "Here's something significant," she told Dr. Levinson, carefully turning the pages of a leather-bound financial ledger. In July 1906, William Hargrove's shipping company was experiencing severe financial difficulties following the earthquake. Many of their warehouses were destroyed, insurance claims were delayed, and competitors were moving into the market. Dr. Levinson examined the document she indicated. A substantial loan from Madsen Banking to Hargrove Shipping, secured against practically all remaining company assets. And in September 1906, the arrangement changed, Rebecca continued, pointing to another entry. The loan was restructured as part of a strategic partnership between the families. Victor Madsen was appointed to the Hargrove Shipping Board of Directors. The same month Thomas Aldridge left for Chicago, Dr. Levinson noted, and shortly thereafter Elizabeth's engagement to Victor was announced. Rebecca turned to another document, minutes from a private meeting between William Hargrove and Charles Madsen, Victor's father. Listen to this notation. Regarding the ICRO incident involving VM and TA, both parties agree that discretion serves mutual interests. Legal matters to be handled by Johnston and Associates. Settlement terms accepted by all parties. An incident between Victor Madsen and Thomas Aldridge. Dr. Levinson mused. Serious enough to require legal settlement. And possibly connected to Thomas's sudden departure and Elizabeth's changed circumstances, Rebecca added. They continued searching, finding correspondence between the company's respective lawyers. One letter referenced the unfortunate altercation at the Olympic Club and the necessity of avoiding scandal that would damage both families' reputations. We're getting closer, Dr. Levinson said, but we still don't know who the woman in the mirror is or what specific incident changed Elizabeth's path from Thomas to Victor. Rebecca carefully replaced the documents. There's one resource we haven't tried yet. The San Francisco Chronicle maintained a separate archive of photographs, including many that were never published. If there was an incident significant enough to change the course of these families, perhaps there's visual evidence. The San Francisco Chronicle's photography archives were housed in a separate facility across town. After explaining their research to the newspaper's archivist, Rebecca and Dr. Levinson were granted access to the glass plate negatives and prints from 1906-1907. Society events were frequently photographed, even if all the images weren't published, the archivist explained, especially for prominent families like the Hargroves and Madsons. They methodically examined photographs from charitable galas, business openings, and civic functions. In several, they spotted Elizabeth Hargrove, often standing near her father. In earlier images from spring 1906, she appeared animated and engaged. In later photographs, her expression had become notably reserved. "Here's something interesting," Rebecca said, carefully lifting a print from April 1906. A fundraiser for earthquake relief at the Fairmont Hotel. The photograph showed Thomas Aldridge speaking with a group that included William Hargrove and his daughter. Standing slightly apart was Victor Madsen, watching the interaction with evident displeasure. Next to Victor stood a young woman with a striking resemblance to him, similar features and the same distinctive Madsen family chin. Victor's sister, perhaps? Dr. Levinson suggested. The archivist checked the notation on the back of the photograph. Yes, that's Catherine Madsen, Victor's younger sister. They found Catherine in several more photographs from the same period, often in proximity to Thomas Aldridge. In one image from a symphony benefit, they were captured in animated conversation, standing closer than Victorian propriety might dictate. "I wonder," Rebecca began, then stopped as she discovered another photograph, this one filed under unpublished. Society items, August 1906. The image showed the aftermath of what appeared to be a physical altercation outside the Olympic Club. Thomas Aldridge was being restrained by two men, his clothing disheveled. Victor Madsen was being helped to his feet, a handkerchief pressed to his bloodied face. On the periphery stood Catherine Madsen, her expression a mixture of distress and anger, reaching toward Thomas but held back by an older woman. "The incident," Dr. Levinson said quietly, "whatever happened here changed everything for these families. And I think I know who the woman in the wedding mirror might be," Rebecca added. "We need to find out more about Catherine Madsen." The California Women's Historical Association maintained records of prominent female residents, including diaries, letters, and oral histories. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson discovered that Catherine Madsen had donated materials in 1967, shortly before her death. Catherine never married, the association's director informed them. She established the Madsen Foundation for the Arts in 1920 and became a significant patron of female artists throughout California. Her contributions to cultural institutions were substantial, though she herself remained intensely private. Catherine's collection included correspondence, foundation records, and a small leather diary from 1906-1907. With careful handling, Rebecca turned the delicate pages of the diary, written in a flowing, educated hand. An entry from March 1906, read, "Met TA again at the committee meeting. Father continues to dismiss my interest in architecture as a passing fancy, but T treats my questions with genuine respect. His vision for rebuilding the city is both practical and beautiful." We spoke for an hour after the meeting concluded. Subsequent entries tracked a developing friendship that seemed to be evolving into something deeper. Catherine described walks through the recovering city, discussions of architectural theory, and Thomas's encouragement of her artistic interests. A stark contrast to her family's expectations that she focus on finding a suitable husband. An entry from July 1906 revealed, T confided that his relationship with EH has become complicated. Her father initially encouraged their connection, but now seems to be steering her toward V. The banking arrangement is changing everything. T is trapped between his feelings and his professional standing. I offered what comfort I could, though my heart is divided on the matter. By August, the tone had changed dramatically. The awful scene at the club has destroyed everything. V's accusations were unconscionable. T defended my honor as any gentleman would, but V has twisted the events to suit his purpose. Father believes V's version entirely. The lawyers have been called. T is being forced to leave San Francisco. His reputation here in tatters. E is forbidden to contact him, and I am to be sent to Aunt Margaret's in Boston until the matter settles. My letters to T have been returned unopened. A final entry, dated May 17, 1907, the day before the wedding. Tomorrow E will marry V, cementing the business arrangement that Father and Mr. Hargrove have orchestrated. E moves through preparations like a sleepwalker. V struts about triumphant. I have promised Father I will attend and maintain appearances, but he cannot dictate my heart. I have written to T in Chicago one last time. Perhaps when I return to San Francisco, I can build a life of my own design, even if not the one I had hoped for. The San Francisco Call Society pages from June 1907 included a small item that caught Rebecca's attention. Miss Catherine Madsen has returned from an extended stay with relatives in Boston. She attended her brother Victor's wedding to Miss Elizabeth Hargrove last month and has now taken up residence in her own apartments on Russian Hill, where she intends to establish a salon for artists and architects interested in the continuing rebuilding of our great city. She came back for the wedding, Rebecca noted, despite everything that had happened. Further research into Catherine's life revealed that she had indeed established herself independently from her family. By 1910, she had opened a small gallery showcasing female artists and architects. Her brother Victor and Elizabeth maintained minimal contact with her, according to social columnists who noted Catherine's absence from Madsen family events. More illuminating was a small article from the Chicago Architectural Review, dated April 1908. Thomas Aldridge's innovative designs for the new civic building have earned him considerable acclaim. When asked about his influences, Aldridge credited his brief but impactful time in San Francisco. The resilience I witnessed there, both in structures and in people, continues to inspire my work, he stated. Mr. Aldridge declined to comment on rumors of his possible return to California, saying only that some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. Dr. Levinson discovered records indicating Catherine had traveled to Chicago several times between 1908 and 1910, ostensibly to visit architectural exhibitions. During the same period, her foundation funded scholarships for young architects to study earthquake-resistant design methods. The connections are becoming clearer, Rebecca said, but we still don't know for certain if Catherine was the woman in the mirror at the wedding. Their answer came from an unexpected source. The Memoirs of the Wedding Photographer, Henri Dubois, published in 1925. In a chapter about memorable commissions, he wrote, "The Madsen-Hargrove wedding presented unique challenges. The families insisted on perfection, with specific instructions about who should be prominently featured and who should remain peripheral. During the formal portraits, an uninvited guest appeared briefly, the groom's sister, who had been estranged from the family. Her presence caused considerable tension, though the bride seemed almost relieved to see her. I captured one image before she was escorted away. Later, reviewing the plates, I noticed her reflection had been caught in the mirror behind the wedding party, a ghost-like reminder of family secrets that no camera can fully conceal. The exhibition room at the San Francisco Historical Society was filled with carefully mounted photographs, letters, and artifacts. Titled Reflections, The Untold Story Behind a 1907 Wedding, the display had drawn considerable interest from historians and the public alike. At its center was the enlarged wedding photograph, with a special panel dedicated to the mirror's reflection and the woman captured within it. Nearby, Catherine Madsen's diary was open to her entry from the wedding day, alongside architectural drawings by Thomas Aldridge for the home he had once planned with Elizabeth. The research has given us a remarkably complete picture, Dr. Levinson told the gathered audience during the opening reception. What began as a chance observation in a wedding photograph led us to uncover a complex story of financial necessity, family pressure, and thwarted relationships. Rebecca continued the presentation. The evidence suggests that Thomas Aldridge was initially courting Elizabeth Hargrove with her father's approval. After the earthquake financially devastated the Hargrove shipping business, William Hargrove sought rescue through a partnership with the Madsen banking family. That partnership came with an unspoken condition, a marriage between the families. Meanwhile, Dr. Levinson added, Thomas had formed a deep connection with Catherine Madsen, Victor's sister. Whether this was romantic or based on shared intellectual interests remains unclear. What is certain is that Victor used this relationship to create a scandal, provoking Thomas into a public confrontation that provided justification for forcing him to leave San Francisco. Rebecca gestured to the wedding photograph. Catherine's appearance at the wedding, captured only as a reflection, was her final act of defiance before establishing her independent life. Elizabeth, trapped in a marriage arranged for financial security rather than affection, appears formally joyful in the photograph, but knowing the context, we can see tension in her posture, particularly as she would have been aware of Catherine's presence in that moment. The exhibition included the subsequent life trajectories of all involved: Elizabeth and Victor's proper but distant marriage, Catherine's flourishing career as an arts patron, Thomas's successful architectural practice in Chicago, and the eventual decline of both the Hargrove and Madsen family businesses despite their merger. What makes this photograph so compelling, Dr. Levinson concluded, is not just the story it tells, but how it tells it. The official narrative is presented front and center, the socially appropriate union of two prominent families. But the truth lingers in the background, captured in a reflection that was never meant to be preserved. It reminds us that historical photographs are not just records of what people wanted us to see, but sometimes, accidentally, of what they tried to hide. In the corner of the room, a final installation showed a photograph from 1920, Catherine Madsen opening her gallery in San Francisco, standing proudly beside an architectural model. The designer credited for the building's innovative features, Thomas Aldridge of Chicago. Their professional collaboration, begun 13 years after the wedding, suggested that some bridges, despite everything, could eventually be rebuilt.